Hi everyone, Barnaby here. So today, I thought we should talk about sight reading. Now you might think, how can we do a video on sight reading? Again, I look through the internet and I try and see what other people are talking about, and I've not found one person talking about sight reading, and I sort of know why really, because it's quite hard to do a video about sight reading. But let me tell you some of my thoughts on it and some words of wisdom. Now then, over the last few weeks, I've been really busy and I've been doing lots and lots of different things, going into new bands that I've not played with before, doing new sessions. I've been in and did a run of shows of Hairspray, which is like a West End Broadway show. The trombonist got sick, so I had to go in, step in at the last minute with no rehearsals and deal with all that. I've also been teaching on the Guildhall Summer School, which is a music school in London, for the last week. So I've been teaching students all week and just observing what the students are doing and talking about some of these things. So I thought it'd be really good if I just did a little video talking about sight reading. So obviously, the first thing to say, there's no secrets with sight reading. If you want to get better at sight reading, then you need to do it more. So the more things that you read, the more sort of pressure that you put on yourselves, the more bands that you're in, the more studies that you're playing, etc., etc., the better you're going to be. Now, I grew up in brass bands in the north of England, so we were reading all the time. We were reading on euphonium. I used to play euphonium, so we were reading all this music each week. Obviously, we had all the lessons at school that you're learning how to read. We had school bands. We then went on to county ensembles. And then as we get older, I went down to Guildhall and studied down there. So you're just constantly reading. Now, it was only till maybe the latter years that I was at university that I then went along to some big bands, and one of them being NYJO. If you ever heard of NYJO, National Youth Jazz Orchestra. It's like where all the sort of hot shots come together in London and play. Now, I think it's a bit better than it used to be regarding taste. However, when I was there, NYJO, it was sort of all about playing high, fast and loud. Every last chord had a super C from the lead trumpet, and every soli was the hardest thing that you've ever played in your life, you know. So I went along to that, and we tried to embrace playing high, fast and loud, you know, which was a lot of fun, as you can imagine, which was a lot of fun. Musically, I don't know about that. I rebelled slightly against it at the time. As I say, I think NYJO is a lot more tasteful than it ever used to be now. But yeah, so, however, where am I going with this? Is that if you could read anything of the NYJO pad of this certain big band, you could read anything. You know, the solis were so hard. And so it was such good training. And then obviously when you come out into the professional world, you just need to join as many bands as you can and just read. Okay, so I guess from a teaching aspect, I think things that I've noticed that students do is when you're first given a piece of music, is you tend to sort of zone in on yourself. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, counting, and 1, and I actually think that's the wrong way to do it. I think what you need to do is to open up your ears. I call it the radar. Open your radar up. Be more aware of the people next to you. Be more aware of what the baritone player's playing over in the corner of the room, what the drummer's playing, what the piano's playing. Open up your radar so that you can start hearing what everybody else is doing. And I think even that's that's something to think about for listening. I know we said this at the end of the week of teaching at Guildhall. We talked in detail about where we're coming off on notes. Are we in tune? You know, all this good stuff that I know you all know about. But we're talking about listening with more detail. So when you're putting your records on, listen to the detail. Don't just go, oh, that's a great tune, and make your drink, make your cup of tea in the kitchen or something. Listen to the music in full detail. Get deeper underneath the surface of it. So why might you do that? Is because you might find that somebody, let's say if you're in a big band, somebody in the sax section might play the rhythm that you're about to play 2 bars before you. They might be playing the rhythm at the same time. I definitely feel a sense of the people next to me breathing. When they're breathing, I can sort of, if I'm about to play and if I'm about to do it wrong, and I don't feel the rest of the section breathing with me, or their body language is the same as mine, then I panic. I'm like, maybe this is wrong, right? So this is sort of like an unspoken thing of just having radar that's so attuned to everything, all the different sounds, what everybody else is doing. Now, I find that when we're sight reading, that massively, massively helps. You can hear how the trumpet might phrase it. Again, the trumpets might have, they're sitting right behind you. They might have that same phrase that you're about to play in the trombone section 4 bars before. How did they play it? Did they play the first note short? Did they play the first note long? Did they do a fall on it? Did they, scoop into it? Did they, whatever? Did they pull it back? Did they play it right on the beat? How did they play it? And then lo and behold, when you're looking at your bar, that might be a trickier bar than the rest of the piece. I've heard that rhythm. Da, 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 da. Oh, brilliant. Da, 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 da. Do you see what I mean? So I think your instincts when you're first given music is to close into yourself, counting. I think open up, and when you're actually sight reading, get the radar on. Now then, pushing the point on that is when I went in to do this Hairspray show, that I've actually I've put the music up there on my Patreon site so you can see what it's like as a professional to have to go in and read a Broadway show or a West End show. This is the actual trombone part that's been around for years and years of Hairspray, and maybe check yourself. I think you can go on to like Spotify, type Hairspray in and all the tunes will come up and you can follow the trombone part and see if you can play along. I think with West End tunes, musicals, they go through lots of different keys. They go through, every 16 bars, it's modulating up and up and up and up and up. So, there's all that, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it's all on my Patreon. So check out that Patreon and see, try and sight read it through, put the piece on the internet and play along. So don't close in, open up your radar when you're playing. Your radar should be so big that you can hear the tuning of the bass. You can hear the timing of the drums. You can clock the MD. Now, the MD, he might not be waving his hands. He might not be conducting. He might be playing piano. You've got to watch his fingers. He might be, there might be a vamp bar. So a vamp bar means it's just going round and round and round. Usually on a musical, we're waiting for them to finish speaking and then the music carries on. So we'll be waiting, vamp, 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 vamp. And he might just give you a nod and then you carry on. So this radar, if you're totally focused in on your music, you're going to miss these cues, and you're going to make a mistake. So opening up your ears, your mind, looking up, checking the conductor. A thing about the conductor, which is a top tip. I remember doing my driving lesson and my driving test. And I remember my teacher saying, I can glance at the mirrors behind me in a split second, done, glanced. But make make sure that the instructor can see you glancing at the mirrors. Turn your head and look at the mirrors and then back again. Make it obvious. Conductors like you to look at them and because it makes them feel good, it makes you feel good. We're all encouraging, we're all on the same page. Great, you know. When we do Dancing with the Stars and things like that, new singers coming in, new people coming in, it's live TV, we've got to be on it, and it's like clock the MD. Make sure that you have that eye contact with the MD, with the conductor, so that it reassures him that you're going to come in and he reassures you, you know. So there's a little tip for conductors. So good. Okay, so that's the radar. The more we can turn our radar on whenever we're doing anything, the better. Now then, in a big band, I've noticed that when the MD or the teacher puts music out, everyone's chatting. You might be chatting about playing football or what you've had to drink or your lunch or whatever. Everyone's chatting, you're having a good time. Now, when the music goes out, everybody starts whittling, especially sax players. Maybe it's easier for sax players to whittle because they're just pressing their buttons. Trombone players don't really do it because it's a bit more of an effort. But whittling. Guitar players, whittle. Stop whittling. Practice in your heads. This is massive. This is massive. If you're in a professional band, as soon as the music's handed out, nobody's whittling, nobody's talking, it's suddenly serious. We can have a good time beforehand. When we're doing music, it's serious. We're focused, we're concentrating. Now then, if I'm concentrating and my radar's on and I've got some baritone player or lead alto player whittling or singing their part out loud or playing something, it's distracting. It puts me off. I'm more concentrating on what they're doing rather than what I'm doing. So don't play out loud. Don't whittle. Practice in your heads. I think there's also a thing to say about that, which is it's noise pollution. Noise pollution. And it can be quite stressful, especially if you're in a 2-hour, 3-hour session rehearsal and everybody's chatting or people behind you are just chatting, whatever. It's quite just like when we're resting, let's be quiet. When we're playing, then it's a focused amount of time, you know. Okay, so music gets put in front of you. We're practicing our heads. What's the sort of things that we need to be looking at? Well, for me, the first thing that I do is I get my piece of music and I'll see whatever it is. I get my piece of music and I'll look at it and I'll see where are the repeats? What's the geography of the tune? Ah, there's a DS there. Ah, that goes back. Then where's the coda sign? Let me just look where the coda sign. Then I'm going to coda sign. What about page turns? Are there any nasty page turns? Oh, I'm playing there. Oh, goodness, I'm going to have to get my pages out. I know on this musical I just did, the hardest thing about the show was the page turns, because as soon as one piece had finished, the next piece started. And it was like, quick, keep it, making sure your page turns, you know. I mean, a lot of the gigs that I do now, I use my iPad. But as a trombone player, I get the foot switch. I've got a foot switch that turns the page. And they're really expensive. It's really annoying. I think they're about £100 is the one that I got. Maybe even £120. I mean, get a good one. But yeah, when you're playing trombone, you've got your hands free. You know, trumpet players can maybe turn the iPads over. Get yourself a little foot switch so that you can turn it over. We all use, all the pros use 4-score. I think there's other things out there, but 4-score's the one that I use. And you can like half-page things or turn your iPad up the other way, you know, whatever. So there are things, but that's a classic example of Sight reading. I've not even started looking at the notes or anything like that yet. I'm just like checking it out. Next thing, check out, is there a solo? Is there a solly? Is there something that's featuring you? Who knows? Who knows what they're going to give you, you know? How high does it go? How low does it go? You know, do we need to start panicking or not? So, that's a joke. Never panic, don't panic. Is the geography of things. Repeats. Is that a 3 times repeat? Is it 4 times repeat? Now, have a pencil. Have a pencil. We pros, we laugh about it, but I've got about 3 pencils in my case. Do I get them out my case? No, I always forget, but I always have to go, stand up, or sorry a minute, I'll just go and get my pencil. Or you might have a section pencil, or you might have a band pencil, which is even more annoying, or sharing the pencil. So take a pencil, put it on your stand. Now then, I'll look through, I'll read through the music. What have I checked? The time signature, the key signature. Is it odd? Is it unusual? You know, is it 4/4? Is it 6/8? Is it 12/8? Is it fast? What's the metronome marking? What's the metronome? Is it fast? Is it slow? You know, give yourself sort of a rough idea. I don't have perfect pitch, but what I do, I can see the music, and I can sort of go. So I'm sort of reading it. My pitch is not like perfect, but I'm getting a rough gist. Do you see what I mean? So I'm already teaching myself. I've not played a note. I've not even put my mouth on the trombone yet. I'm getting a rough idea of what it sounds like of the intervals. Keys, you know, I mean, this is this is theory, really. With jazz, I mean, you don't really, keys change a lot. Keys change a lot. And as I said, with the West End stuff, that was changing every 16 bars we were going into keys. But see what keys you're in. See if there's any key changes. Get your pencil, put a circle around the key changes. Notice if there's any accidentals. Sometimes they might write, I know on Sibelius software it can automatically correct it, but they might write a flat on one note and then the bar changes and then it's a natural. They've not written anything on the next one. Mark it natural. And funnily enough, you're probably, by marking it, doing the next trombone player who's going to play that sheet of music a favour. Ah, nice one, thank you. We're all in it together, you know. It's like we're all helping each other play this part the best that we're going to do. Yeah, key signatures. Are we in a minor key? Are we in a major key? I mean, if there's no sharps and flats, we're in C major. But hold on a minute, are we in C major? Are there any G sharps in there? That's a little tip. If there's G sharps in there, that implies there's an E7 chord. E, G sharp, B, which is the 5, wants to go to A minor. So we're actually in a minor key. We're not in C, we're in A minor. I mean, does this make a difference? Yeah, maybe it does when I come on to talking about some more of these things. Checking out what key. What's the last note? What's the last chord? What's the last note? It might not be right, but it might be 9 times out of 10. The probably tune, you know, whatever tune you're playing, it will probably end on the one chord of whatever key you're in, you know. So check out that. I'll get onto keys, why they can be helpful. Okay, another thing that's massively helpful is the form of a tune. Check out, it's 8 bars. It's 8 bars. 8. Oh, fantastic. 8 bars. When you're writing music, try and put 4 bars on each line. Don't do a 5 bar and a 3 bar and a 2 bar and a 7 bar or what, you know. It's like, try and just keep it consistent. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Easy to read, easy to analyze. On first looking, great. They're 8 bar sequences. So that if one of the sections is a 9 bar form, a 10 bar form, then you're like, You clock it. Ah, okay. Now, maybe you have a solo. It's the first thing I do on solos. The first thing, you're given a chord chart. What's the form? Are the 8 bars? Is it 12 bars? If it's a 12 bar sequence, what might it be? If it's a 12 bar form, what might it be? It might be a blues. It might be a blues, 12 bar blues. So suddenly you're trying to get what's on the page off without even playing a note. Without even playing a note. Okay, so that's the geography of things. And mark on. Don't be scared to mark on. Now then, drummers do this. Rhythms. Rhythms are 10 times more important than the notes. 10 times, definitely in big band music, in jazz music. If you can play the rhythms and the notes, yay, right? But the rhythms, get the rhythms together first. Because you might be going, well, everything you need to do, you've got to do it in time. Even if you play a wrong note, if it's in time, it might be all right. It might be all right. All the wrong notes, but it's swinging, it's grooving, it's in time. The notes will start coming together. In the big band that we did at the Guildhall, we were making tunes up, we were playing riffs by ear, listening to them, playing them back, putting them into harmony. Now then, the first time that you hear something, you might not know what the notes are, but get the rhythms, sing it back straight away. You know what's that thing about when you meet somebody about their names, like terrible at remembering people's names, that if they say, oh, hi, my name's John, say, hi, John, how you doing? My name's Barnaby. You've actually said their name back to them, which is nice for them, it's good for them, but it's also you're learning their names because you've actually reinforcing it all the time. And I think it's the same with that. As soon as you hear a phrase, okay? I don't know what those notes are. I have no idea what those notes are. But I've got the swing, I've got the groove, I've got the feel across. And then you can start going, okay, hold on a minute. I've not played a note, remember? I've not put my mouth on the trombone yet. This is all in my head. Where's the root? Okay. You can sort of work it out. 6-5, flat 3-3, 5-6-5. Do you see what I mean? I'm sort of, and then what key are we in? All right, we're doing it in F. Okay, brilliant. I've not played a note. I'm sort of doing all this in my head. And then when you come to do it, you might mess it up, but it's still swinging. It's still working. Okay. So, other things. Marking on the part. Oh, this is what I wanted to do. If you've got a funny rhythm, I mark an arrow down on the beats. Here's the beats. They could be semiquavers. They could be dotted semiquavers. They could be semiquaver rests everywhere. I think when we're writing pieces, people are getting a bit better at this, but still it can go wrong. Is rather than writing a short note on beat 1, right, and you write a semiquaver with a dot on it, and then 3 semiquaver rests, right? Simply, it's a crotchet with a short on it. It's a short crotchet. Make it easy when you're writing these things. Make it easy to read. A short crotchet looks 10 times easier than a semiquaver with 3 semiquaver rests, because then the rest of the bar is just manic. Dotted this, dotted that, So what we're trying to do is to help sight readers read things first time, That's something to think about. Now then, if things are on the beats, I'll actually put arrows where the beats are so that I can feel whether I'm pushing into the beat or I'm on the beat. And a lot of mistakes happen when they're just on the beat. Everyone, if something's pushing, I'm making it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, bap, to bap, to bap, 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 to bap, 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 bap. Right? I'd write a mark. That's on the beat. It's not all pushed. So you're helping yourself, I know some friends mark their parts so much, it's because if they've had a drink, they said they might be, they need all the help they can get if they've had a drink. I don't encourage that at all, but that's quite funny, yeah. So marking things. Oh, here's a brilliant one. Bars rest, count. It's so easy that when you get your bars rest, you stop counting. Okay. Right on. Count. Do not stop counting. Count the bars. Especially if there's a page turn. I've come unstuck with this. You might have 5 bars rest and then 3 bars rest on the other side of the page turn. Count. Turn over the page. Count. You're reminding yourself to do this. I don't know other trombone players that do this. I write alone a lot on my on music, alone, meaning the rest of the section aren't with me. It's a solo, or I'm alone. Because that thing of talking about when you're feeling the rest of the section, oh yeah, we're all a team, we're all playing, it's all together. That actually when we're not together, I sort of want to know that I'm not together with people. I'll write alone on it. It's not a solo, it's not a soli, it's just I know that I come in. Bells, boom, 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 boom. All right, bell, alone, bell. Mark your parts up, mark your parts up. So, drummers. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. When you're looking at your music, see 1 and 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Finding out you're splitting the bar up, you're subdividing. Where does the note start? And even more importantly, that most people forget, is where does it end? And that normally happens on long notes, that you'll come in correctly and then you'll just hold it for as long as you want and then fall off. Now, why is that bad? Well, if you're in a chord and you're all just coming off the notes wherever, suddenly somebody's left on their own, it's scrappy. And everything that we're doing, I talk about this with improvisation as well, everything we're doing is in time, is coordinated, is set, that we might stop our note on beat 4, and that's when the saxophones take off from beat 4. Do you see what I mean? Everything, I'm subdividing everything. Now, that was just quavers or eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Drummers do 1 E and A. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. So they might say, oh yeah, let's hit the E of 1. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. Yeah? So we have words of, and that massively helps you read. That massively helps you read. That you're subdividing. And then you can see, oh, I'm just pushing into beat 4. Oh yeah, it's a semi-quaver, push into the next bar. Oh, it's a quaver. Beat 3, that's on the beat there. It's on the beat. We're pushing, then that's on the beat. Subdividing. Melodically. So, patterns, they're all over my Patreon site, check that out. But patterns, and more patterns. All this stuff from all your study books, all these exercises, that can massively help your sight reading. Because now what's happening is you might see that on the music, and you're not having to go G, F, E, D, F, E, D, C, E, D, C, B. You're not seeing them as individual notes. You're seeing them as a pattern. What's the classic of that? The classic of that is Sir Duke, you know, Stevie Wonder, when you go to the when you go and do a function or a wedding band or something. So that if someone put that in front of me, I'd be like, ah, scary, right? That's a lot of notes and it's all over the place. However, if you've been practicing your pentatonic scales, you're like, I recognize that as a pentatonic scale, pentatonic pattern. Yeah? So I've already done the hard work in my practice so that then when I come to read something, I'm like, ah, brilliant. And again, you'll see a lot of my lessons, I try and make it easier for myself, is that I'll have the pattern down in its sort of original form, and then maybe there's one note difference. And I change, I just need to change that one note within this pattern, and now I'm implying some other harmony, or I'm reading something different. So I can see when I'm reading, there's an accidental there, you know, just clock that. Or is it all just diatonic, all within the key? I mean, funnily enough, the classic thing with that is some bands play it in B flat because it's easier for everyone to play it, but I think the original off the top of my head is in B. So make sure you practice your B major pentatonic scale, you know. To get around that, you know. So good. So now, and it's the same with guitarists and piano players, that they're looking at shapes. They're looking at shapes. They're not going C, E, G, going to C, F, A. They're just going, right, it's just doing that. It's just, they're moving their shape around the fretboard or around the piano. We need to do the same thing. Yeah? So the more of that stuff that you can do, I think the better your sight reading can be. I mean, some obvious things. The feel and the groove. I always talk about that. Which, is it straight or is it swung? You know, funnily enough, if something's swung, my classical piano teacher used to teach me this. He used to make me swing things, boo ba doo ba doo ba doo ba dee, doo ba doo ba doo ba doo ba dee, so that my motion is going quicker. Is going quicker between every other note. Boo ba doo ba doo ba doo ba dee ba doo ba dee ba doo ba doo. So you're getting your technique together. But great. Is it swung? If you're reading it through, what's the feel? Is it a Latin thing? Is it straight? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... Or is it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Is it more triplety? Etc, etc. Get the feel together. Get the feel together. So... So I think there's some really good things to be thinking about. This is before you've even played a note. Now then, in my head, I sound like Stevie Wonder when I sing. In my head, when I actually try and sing, I sound nothing like Stevie Wonder, right? Which can be rather frustrating sometimes. So there is also that difference of, great, yeah, I can see that, I can read that, yeah, that's absolutely fine. But then when it actually comes to do it, some things might be harder, you know. So I would then actually look through and maybe some of the trickier sections, I would be moving my arm and I would find, I'm going to play that D in fourth, pencil out, D, fourth, write 4 over the top of it. Do you see what I mean? So that you're already doing all the work before you've played a note. When it comes to playing, I think this is quite a funny thing. When you do West End shows, Broadway shows, what you have to do a sit-in. In this particular show, I didn't get the option to do a sit-in. But normally, you have someone who sits next to you and watches you play the part so that when they come to do it, they know how to do it. And you can be sitting there watching somebody else do it, like, yeah, oh, well, that's great, isn't it? Yeah, it plays itself, that. Yeah, it's fine, you know. But remember, chops, you might have 2 shows that day. Like, towards the end, you might be getting tired. So there's all that stuff of practicing, keeping on top of that. That your stamina is good enough to play it. Don't forget that. Breathing. There's a good one that we should talk about. Breathing. Where am I going to breathe? Even when I'm teaching all my students that are doing your grade 8s and all these classical pieces, usually on those pieces, they've got the little commas to tell us where to breathe. Always breathe where it tells you to breathe. Wherever you can take that breath, breathe. Where did the lead player take a breath? You should be breathing at the same point as the lead players. Now, I get, if you're playing bass trombone, you might need to breathe a bit more often. Try and breathe in a musical place. Try and breathe in a musical place that makes sense, that gives you enough air. You should always have loads of air. Mark the breathing in. Now then, as a lead player, my job is basically to try and be as consistent as I can. So I will hold that note all the way through to beat 1. I will come off on 4. And if we play the tune again, I will do the same so that nobody has to ask, oh, where do we bring that note off? Oh yeah, should we bring that off on what? Oh yeah, where do we bring that off? I'm clocking the lead trumpet player if we're playing it together. I'm clocking the lead alto player if we're playing it together. Where we all breathe in, we're all listening to each other. If the trombones are just doing something on their own, then I'll make the decision where I'm going to breathe, how I'm going to phrase it, am I going to pull it back, and everybody else in the section has to follow. Maybe I'll do a video on how to play in a section down the line. But yeah, breathing, mark it on. If it's ambiguous, ask your lead player. Ask your lead player, where should we breathe? A lot of times I'll turn round to the lead trumpet player and say, oh yeah, what should we do on that? Shall we take that off on beat 4 rather than the and of 4, and then we can come in strong on beat 1? Yeah, great. So I'm not bothering the conductor with it. We're just sorting it out between the two of us. Okay, good. So I think that's it. Coming to do it. So all the practice, the more patterns, the more geography, practicing in your heads. What haven't we talked about? Maybe, even things like E sharps. I mean, does an E sharp exist? Does a B sharp exist? I've never seen an E sharp. Right on. If I'm going, goodness, what's an E sharp? What's an F double sharp? Like, I haven't seen that for 1,000 years, It's like, mark on. All right, it's an F. E sharp. Oh yeah, it's just an F. Oh, it's C. Oh, it's just a C major scale, that. Oh, brilliant, It's a B sharp major scale, Just things like that. Just handy little hints. So I hope this has helped. The more reading, turn the radar on. I think strong and wrong. Strong and wrong. If you're ever playing in a section and you think, oh, I'm slightly out of tune, I can't tune this note, you tend to play it quieter, play it louder. Trust that you can hear it. Your ear will tune it in. Your ear will tune it in. So strong and wrong. When it comes to it, you have to be confident with playing. You can't half hit a cymbal. Oh, tickle it. Bosh, I've hit the cymbal. I've committed to it. I think it's quite interesting. After COVID, one of the first sessions back that I did after COVID was with Lionel Richie's. Lionel Richie did some album. And we went in, and I think it was at Abbey Road. But, I mean, when I get in the moment, you have to be confident. But for 2 years, I don't think any musicians had read music. We've not read any music for 2 years. You sort of get out of the habit of it, and you can build up that unconfident of, oh goodness, and it's only eighth notes, quarter notes, crotchets, quavers, long notes, but it's like, wow. And also, I remember this particular session at Abbey Road, we all had the screens between us, and we were sitting quite a long way apart from each other. Well, all that thing about sensing each other's breathing and playing, it was horrible. It was really horrible that you just felt you're on your own, you know. So it was really tough. But I get, you know, and especially when the pressure's on and you don't want to mess it up, but be strong. If you play the wrong note on the wrong beat, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Forget it. Leave it behind. Don't beat yourself up about it. We've all done it a million times before. Move on, forget about it, keep reading, keep going. So I hope all this helps. Again, I've never seen anybody talking about sight reading on a video before, but these are just some sort of handy hints that I've got over my experience in playing. The more reading you do, the more practice you do, the more patterns, the more subdividing, the bigger your radar is, the better sight reader you will be. All right, nice one, everyone. Join my Patreon, click and subscribe, all that nonsense. I hate saying all that stuff, but it really helps me out, and I can do a lot more videos for you. All right, take it easy, everyone. Bye.